Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Journey to Win. I'm here with my friend Taylor Cavanaugh. Super excited for you guys to meet him today. He was a former Navy SEAL turned French Foreign Legionnaire, like literally the first, from my understanding, Navy SEAL to French Foreign Legion. So I'm excited to hear his story today. It's a very powerful story that I'm very confident all of you guys are going to get value from. So, dude, Taylor, welcome to the call, man. Excited to have you.
Brandon, thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for listening in.
Cool, man. Well, let's go ahead and kick it off. I mean, my community already knows what this is all about. I bring on high value people who are winning in their life, and obviously, in order for you to get to where you are to be winning today, dude, you had to go through some pretty hellish stuff to get there. And so we'll talk about that.
Hmm.
But before we do, what is winning in life, the game of life, to Taylor Cavanaugh? What does that mean to you?
Winning for me means walking in inner peace and living with clarity. That's those two states of being are what I think everybody seeks. And that's success to me. And what does that entail? That entails you being proud of yourself. That entails people in your life being proud of you and doing the right things and living in congruency with that higher consciousness that speaks to all of us.
I love it, man. You have a coaching program. Do you coach people through that process of for the mindset side?
I do. I start with the basic disciplines because often that's if you're working towards inner peace, it's impossible to do if your daily habits are not on point. So we start with the daily habits, we start with the nutrition, we start tracking the macros, we get control of your day. Start mastering the day, and then that clarity starts to come in. And then you can start to experience that state of inner peace that is constantly you have to work for. It's like sweeping the floor. You don't just sweep it and it's done. It's a constant work towards that state.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. So let's tell everybody your story then. So we'll talk. We'll come back to the inner peace side of it here in a little bit, because I have some questions I could branch off on that. But let's talk about your story of, becoming a Navy SEAL. That whole process, and then going into the challenges that you had, and then getting kicked out of the SEAL teams and the Navy in
Mm-hmm.
general. Not because of. I mean, you were. I told you right before this call. I looked into you, man. Like everybody said, you were a great operator. So it has nothing to do with your operational skills. Just had to do with some of the stuff with your inner peace that you were dealing
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
And then you grew through all that, man, and became a French Foreign Legionnaire. So yeah, tell us that story.
So I'll kind of take it back a little bit before the SEAL teams, where for a lot of us that seed got planted when I was a young kid. Young kid growing up, about 7 years old, that seed gets planted. Men with green faces, that whole deal. We come in the age where that will, predator and the jungle and all that was kind of going on. And well, it really called to me. And so I always knew I was going to do it, going through high school, going through college. And that kind of got put on the back burner while bad habits started to form. And I just started to kind of develop into this person that lacked self awareness. That was just the bottom line, and maturity. I had no self awareness, no maturity, and those two things don't go hand in hand very smoothly. And I had been arrested multiple times, many times, even before getting into the military. And well, I had to go to jail to get off probation, to get into the United States military, to even have a chance, turned down by a lot of branches. But the powers that be and some hard work and some good connections, I got some waivers, took a long time, stacking boxes at Home Depot at night while I'm trying to go get my SEAL contract. And I get in, boot camp, go into BUDS, class 284, pass that, SQT class 284, pass that, and really happy, so happy and too happy. Like what I was locked on through SQT. That wasn't the problem. I was so focused. I had no real issues, little bumps in the road here and there, but then I got out, got back from my first deployment, and that discipline, what all that discipline went, started to kind of get shaky and started going out a little bit too much, a little bit more. Still working hard, still very focused on work, but the off the field stuff, I was just in a celebratory mood. That's the truth. And I had arrived, right? I had arrived, living downtown, going out, and I was on this. The momentum was building, getting a little ahead of my skis, and boom, I get into some trouble in a bar, in a physical altercation, and it kind of cascaded a lot of stuff for me that was took years to get out of.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy you talk about that, Taylor, because and we'll go into your story of how you transitioned into the French Foreign Legion here in a second. But I think that that's a problem for most people. The second platoon, the first platoon, you're a new guy, and so you're
Yep.
trying to prove yourself. You're trying to learn everything you can, right? Like you're so focused on making sure that you're doing everything right and um and knowing your part and playing your
Yeah.
part in the game. But once you get in the second platoon, you're the guy, you're the man,
Yeah.
right? Like that
Yeah.
that's the mentality, and people got to watch out for them. And I talk about this all the time because it's like the saying goes, stay humble or be ready to be humbled. And I've been
Oh, I
there, bro.
like that.
Trust me, I've been there.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to this, no matter where you guys are, whether you're in the military and you're on your second platoon in the SEAL teams, or you're a CEO of an organization, you can't buy into your own press. As soon as you start doing that, it's a downward spiral. So I agree, Taylor. I mean, that's tough
100.
one. Then let me ask you this, dude, because what was your environment like? You said self-awareness, maturity, growing up. Who are you hanging out with? Like, did you have any good mentors in your life? Because everybody's leading somebody somewhere, right? Like, people, you don't have
Yeah.
to be considered a leader to be a leader. People are leading people either in a good way or a bad way because they have certain influences over people. So, who was the
Hmm.
people that you were hanging out with?
And you're referring to kind of in those adolescent years?
Yeah, when you were growing up, you said you started to lose self awareness, the maturity level
Yeah.
started to fall off, and you went to jail. Like, were you hanging out
Yeah.
in the wrong crowd?
Man, I was the wrong crowd. And that's the truth. I was the wrong crowd. I had always kind of pushed the envelope. I was going down to Mexico. I started getting tattoos at 15 years old. I grew up in San Diego. We And that's just was kind of a life. I was very tattooed by the time I graduated from high school, and
Hmm.
was kicked out of high school for possession of marijuana, fighting, lost scholarship opportunities. And so I had been doing a master class of self-sabotage for many years, and then rallying and coming back, rallying, hitting those times of compression, those times of expansion, and I just, like you said, Brandon, during those times of expansion, I would forget about all the lessons I learned during that time of compression, and I would believe my own hype, get humbled, I'd be in jail again, going never again, and then sure enough, and so I was in this dangerous ebb and flow, and so I grew up. My father wasn't around much, he's a prime Marine, but was in and out. There were some drugs and alcohol problems, and so I had a lot of autonomy very early on. I worked in high school. So I wasn't asking for money. I bought all my own stuff. So I didn't, my mom wasn't telling me what to do, and so that's kind of where it started. And I didn't have a lot of discipline, and I wasn't disciplining myself. And I think that is the man in the house is so important. Who sets the tone? The fish stinks from the head, and the men are the head in the family, and there's not there, then there's a void, and it's gonna get filled somewhere.
It is, man. You're right. I grew up with my dad. He was around, but he wasn't around like a lot, right?
Yeah,
Until like high school years, and you raise yourself. And bro, there was a time like I got saved by one of my coaches. Like if it wasn't for him, who knows where I'd have been? I probably would have been in jail doing all this
yeah.
stuff as well. Guys like us, like our personalities, like we're all in.
If
And
there's that storm.
yep, I agree, man. So tell us, okay, so you get in your first fight in the SEAL teams, you
Hmm.
get in trouble. The military in general, the problem with the military is that they really have a zero tolerance policy now, with alcohol related incidents and drugs and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
how did that all shake out? Because I want to start getting into how you got
yeah. How I
removed.
start getting into the Legion, how that worked. So some very expensive attorneys, some good connections with some SEAL teams, and a lot of money was what ended up getting me a misdemeanor. But it was 2 years later. I had got it postponed. They let me go to Iraq on bail. If you can imagine that. And I think some things slipped through the cracks. I was handling my stuff, but it's stressful, man. I do not wish that on my worst enemy, dealing with that, because I was facing 6 years in prison plus 3. Parole was my plea deal. So I was dealing with all that. Finally, get a 4-year probationary sentence and a very stern misdemeanor, which was I don't know how that would have worked, because I wasn't supposed to leave San Diego. I couldn't own a weapon, but I'm a SEAL traveling all over. It was not. It was setting up not for success. And I get in trouble. I was good for like a month. I get in trouble 3 months later. Not another fight, but riding around in a golf cart at a concert. That wasn't mine. It was the county's golf cart. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's how easy it happens. And that's what ended my SEAL career, because it turned into cops tasing me, dogs biting me, a whole thing. And that was it. I hit the nail in the coffin with that one, and had to fight through that whole thing. But that was what pushed me out. And so then I'm walking out of jail again, signing my DD 14 pretty much the next day, and on a general discharge, mind you, on a general discharge. Thank you to the CO of Team 7, a really bro move of him. And I'm a civilian. So I'm a civilian. I had used some contacts, and I had been working it for a while because I knew this was happening. And I walked into a supervisor position at the largest private developer in the United States on a $750 million project in San Diego. And I'm like the 2-man. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know how to run teams. So we're actually having some success. And you know what? I was pretty happy, but I started stacking bad habits immediately. Alcohol, Adderall, Xanax, weed, every day. Didn't miss a day, because I'm a habitual person. I'm not even an addict. I'm just habitual. If something works in one day, then I'm doing it every day. So that is just how it was working. And that's not good for the relationship I was in. I wasn't setting the good tone. No balance. End up switching into the marijuana industry with a venture capitalist. So I'm pitching decks, raising millions of dollars, traveling around, throw in an opioid habit on top of this, just to make things interesting for myself. And I'm on this ride for about a year, to where I crash and burn, right? And that was it. I was pushed out. I was slowly cut up, and then I find myself homeless in my truck, no money. I realized that I have nothing, and I was in a suicidal state for about 3 days. I was like, all of those 2 years where I had been going a million miles an hour, now everything was taken from me. I had nothing. I started to really sit with me having lost the SEAL teams finally, because I had just shelved it and just million miles an hour in one direction and numbing myself with everything in between. Now it was all coming down, everything at once. And I sat with that for a while, and I said some prayer, man. I said a prayer. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this by myself. That's what I said. And I was in the jungle on the east side of the Big Island, Hawaii, homeless. And I just had a voice, kind of, that higher consciousness. I call it God, but people can call it what they will. And said, bro, this isn't about you. F you. This is about, you have family. Man, stop thinking about yourself for 1 second. And I realized that's all I was doing for 3 days. Me, I feel what I didn't have, were my current state. And it was a slap in the face for me. And I realized at that exact moment, forget this. No more pity party. I'm going to the French Foreign Legion.
So you just made a decision right then and there. You're going to French.
Right there in the jungle, no shirt, straight native. just okay, this is happening. How do I do this, right? And then I just started developing a plan. 8 days later, I was in France.
Wow. What is the French Foreign Legion?
The French Foreign Legion, for those who aren't aware, is about a 200 some year old organization that was created by an old king of France to funnel foreigners who were in France from a previous war back onto the battlefield and get them out of the streets. That's what the French Foreign Legion was created for. And the carrot was you would earn French citizenship if you did 5 good years of combat and service for France.
So yeah, and didn't they used to, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they used to, if people got in trouble in France, they made people serve like lifelong sentences there? Or is that
I've never heard that. I don't think that's true.
Okay.
Because it used to be only foreigners with French officers.
Got it.
They would go to the Sear Academy here, kind of like our West Point, but it only took foreigners. Now they will take French, very few though, but they changed their citizenship on the way in, and they give them they call them Canadians.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so 8 days later, you're there.
Yeah.
Tell me about the process, man, because obviously you were a Navy SEAL, you went through that process.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
in my opinion, the toughest military training in the world, right? Like,
yeah, it's by far. I mean, we'll get into that. It's SEAL training is. I mean, the reputation there. Even when I'm there, there's guys from every block, Eastern Bloc, everywhere. You're a SEAL. They know what's up. Mm-hmm. So you get a little extra love also. You can imagine. Yeah. I wasn't broadcasting that by any stretch. So the process is there's 2 pre-selection bases in France. They have a couple satellite locations on the frontier, on the border of France, but there's 2 pre-selection centers. One in Paris, one in Aubin, which is right outside of Marseille. And it's a very unique process because you go there with a bag and a passport. You don't call ahead. You don't set an appointment, and you just knock on the door.
That's wild, bro.
And a guy with a gun, with a green beret, who's also a Foreign Legionnaire, will answer it. And all Legion bases are manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You could go there on Christmas morning and join if you wanted. And it's been like that for 200-something years. No deviation.
And did you speak French beforehand?
Not a word. I Googled, Je suis ici pour la Legion. I'm here for the Legion. I Googled that right before I walked in.
So you go there, you don't speak any of the language. Were they speaking French to you? Were they speaking English to you?
So through the selection process, I mean, they tell you to, once you go in, you give your passport to them immediately. I didn't see that passport again for 2.5 years. Wow. 2.5 years, you are locked on. And they give you a fake name after you pass the IQ test, after you pass the medical screeners and the psychological evaluations and the Interpol background checks. All this stuff goes down in about a month period. But they're pretty much just finding out who you are, right? That's the most, because there's guys coming from every dark corner of the earth. And with Americans, they know our paperwork's pretty good, but there's places where they don't even have real birth certificates, So they're just really, the interview process is the most, it's in depth. It's an interrogation. They get into it. And mine was extra in depth because they're like, what are you doing here? Well, I had my DD-214. What's a Navy SEAL doing here? There's a is he wanted for war crimes? They don't know. They don't want a problem with the United States government also.
Right.
So they've had some issues. So they're trying to make sure that's not a problem.
So let's talk about selection. How was it? What was it like? What did you have to do?
Now you got to remember what the Legion is and what it's not. It's not a special force unit. That's something to make clear. So you're not going into a special force selection. It's a basic Army boot camp, right? And if down the road, they do have commando groups, but that selection is years down the road. So the actual selection process is basic boot camp. I would call it like the Marine Corps of the 1980s. That's what I would call it. That's exactly how I kind of grasp it. The Foreign Legion's about 7,000-8,000 guys, and it's a one package unit. They have their own cavalry, they have their own parachute group, they have their own infantry, own mountain group, own engineers, own cooks, own medical. It's a one package of foreign fighters in France. So
Are
they
they
need all
fighting?
types. Excuse me?
Are they fighting? Like, are they actively in any engagements right now?
All the time. So
Oh,
they send the Legion because they don't have that political pressure if guys die,
mm,
right? They have foreigners coming back in body bags, not French, which is that's why it's there. So they're
yeah.
kind of the cannon fodder in France. But they're in Africa. They're in all the countries in Africa. I mean, 26 countries speak French in Africa. That's not by coincidence. France is strong down there, and they have guys Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, uh, all all throughout. You can imagine, all the way down to pretty much South Africa.
Did you have how long? First off, how long you been there?
So I've been here about 4 years and some change, going on, 4.5 years.
Okay, and did they deploy you, or is it not like
Yeah,
the
so
SEAL team?
I got into the mountain group, and I was going to request because I was kind of funneled to the mountain commando group. They're like,
Mm,
okay, we'll take this Legionnaire, this former Navy SEAL, and put him in one of the commando groups. We'll talk about that later if that comes up. But so I went to the mountain infantry. It's pretty much attached to the mountain infantry brigade of France, and they immediately sent me to the jungle. They sent me to South America for 4 months on deployment right when I get to the mountain. And so that was actually pretty cool. I didn't expect that. And we were doing deep jungle operations, interdiction for gold mines. We were blowing gold mines up every other day. Huge gold mines, bringing demo, smashing 2-3 week patrols again over months and months and months, and hitting gold mines every other day.
wow,
Seriously.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's what's going on down there is the Wild West. Seriously, it blew my mind. I had no idea what's going on down there. I mean, there's pirates getting in gunfights, and I'm like, what is going on, man? But
Are
it's because there's no deep jungle. There's no rules.
are you allowed to talk about operations, or is it like you're not allowed to talk about that stuff?
No, it's not really super closed source, but it's mostly Brazilians coming over the border into French territory, French Guiana. That's what's
Hmm.
going on. And Suriname mostly. We were on the Suriname French Guiana border and kind of running this little outpost and controlling the traffic of boats also because they're looking for drugs as well. And it's in
Makes sense.
it's a joint effort with the French gendarmes, which are kind of a French, not a military police, but a militant type police force for France.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then we did some anti-terrorism patrols internal of France, which is unique that we don't do in the United States. It would be weird you're seeing guys patrolling around downtown San Diego, but they do it here like it's nothing. And so they would send the Legionnaires. We would patrol for 2 months in Nice, straight, fully kitted up, patrolling the beach, like straight up. And the French just don't even bat an eye because they had a huge terrorist problem there in 2016. A bunch of people died. So
Oh,
it's
and Nice.
actually, yeah. And so France has their anti-terrorism units in internal France. Like my boy, you know, we have friends that are at the tip of the spear. You guys who are listening kind of know what that is. They're training with these guys
Hmm.
here in France because these guys are working for real. France has a lot of issues with terrorism, serious issues, and so they take it very seriously.
So I just went to the south of France, and I was in Nice, literally in June, and so they literally had. I didn't hear about this. They had a
Yeah,
terrorist down there.
2016 they had a big explosion.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's wild, man. Hey,
yeah,
it makes sense. They're so close. They're so close. Europe's not that far from Africa, right? Like when I was in Malta, we were doing a non-visibility. I was getting my when I was still active. I was getting my yacht master's license, so we could do some
oh,
non-visibility stuff. There were a lot
very
of people
cool.
coming through Malta, a lot of Al Qaeda. All of them were running through Malta, and so
Interesting.
the program ended up not really coming to fruition, even though I got my yacht master's license through it. But
Nice.
yeah,
Nice little cherry.
I wouldn't trust myself to captain a boat though, bro. It's crazy. It's funny, like you first off, we weren't on a ship. I don't know about you, but I wasn't in the regular Navy, so I've never been on
Yeah,
a ship. So
me neither.
you had to kind of make up all these hours, these thousand. I don't know how many it was, but it was a lot of hours, like over 1,000 hours or something, that you were on a ship, captaining a
Hmm.
ship, or being, in control of the ship. I can't remember exact rules, but it was crazy. We made up everything. It was me and two other boat guys.
Yeah.
I didn't even know the terminology, bro. Like, it was a 2 week, and I'm like,
James.
I don't know how I'm gonna pass this. Yeah, it was powerboat, and sail. So I had to learn how to sail in 2 weeks and
Oh man,
pass the test.
you get the synopsis, bro, for
Dude,
actual sailing.
it was
The
insane.
bullet points.
Yeah. So, okay, so tell me about the commando group. So you went up to the mountains. You were in a commando
Yeah,
group. What's that group? How's that work?
yeah. So yeah, and then I'll hit the last deployment. I was just on the I was doing with NATO on the Estonian-Russian border
Mm,
last year for 5 months with on the enhanced forward presence battle group with the English, Danish, Estonians, and the French. So we were all there. I mean, we were going out rolling with 86 tanks behind us. I had never seen anything, a movement like that. 86 English tanks. I was like, Challenger tanks. I'm going,
wow.
man, they're spending, millions a day on gas. It's unbelievable. So yeah, so that was the three kind of mission sets I had since I've been here.
Was it just a show
And
of force?
it's flexing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's flexing on the border.
yeah.
Just kind of blowing stuff up, making noise. That's very much what's going on. And yeah, so for the commando groups, so there's two commando groups in the Foreign Legion. There's GCP and GCM, Group Commando Parachutist, Group Commando Montagne. At 2 Rep, which is a very prestigious regiment in the Foreign Legion, it's on Corsica on the island. 2nd Rep, you might have heard. That's the parachute regiment. Very difficult. A lot of Anglophones there, a lot of English speakers there, a lot of Australians there, not a lot of Americans, but that's like where the warfighters go, you know. And it's difficult. Their selection is very difficult. GCP is like the premier. Then GCM is the Mountain Regiment, where I was at, where I am at, and that's another difficult selection. And they do, just a kind of an initial 3 week, kick in the crotch, and you kind of get picked up, and then you're kind of part of the section, and then you go through a full year training selection of actual Group Commando Montagne with the French Special Army. I would say they operate kind of like a Rangers, if I could kind of break it down like that. That's how they kind of operate. It's kind of like a Ranger regiment. It's they're rucking, that's kind of their that mindset.
Hmm. Okay, and so you're getting out. I think you said you have less than a year left, so you're
Yeah.
finishing up, and then what's your plans?
So right now, I really started to fall into this through this last time. I found this redemption through discipline because I came in broken, seriously broken, and I said I'm going to use this time as a vehicle, as a to help myself. I can't keep doing this again and again and again, and breaking my life apart. What I need to unlearn what I've what I however I have been thinking. So I really started into this self development and reading a lot of philosophy, reading a lot about just stoicism and praying and trying to stay plugged in and just being open and dropping the ego. And as I said, it wasn't perfect at first. It took me time. And then all of a sudden one day something just clicked. And I realized I have to hold myself accountable. Nobody's going to do it for me. So then I started instituting seriously strict discipline on myself. I get up at 2:35 in the morning. I do, work. I stay strict with my diet. Once I started doing things I said I was going to do and I did them all the time, no deviation, I started having this clarity and I started feeling more open. And I was like, man, I really want to teach people this. People talk about coaching and this and that, but I really need this. I know this can help people to feel better. And part of it's fitness, but it's just a part. And so I'm looking to go into that world. I kind of started it already, and it's been going good, and I really like the purpose of it. To be, a 9 to 5 is not going to work for me. That's just not going to happen. So I'm definitely going to go into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I punching the clocks. I think, especially with the tattoos, man, I think I'm going to be passed for too many interviews. So I'm committed to this entrepreneurship world.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, I feel you. And, I did the same thing back in the day. And, someone like you guys, like us, we're going to be successful no matter what we do. And I think that there's a lot of people that need your help, man. There's a lot of people that need that mindset, knowledge transfer. They need everything. They need, like for me, like I didn't lack work ethic back in the day. Neither did you. I didn't lack a vision. I just lacked a mentor to help get me from where I was to where I wanted to go. And I prayed for it and God delivered, right? I was open-minded. Like they say, the mind's like a parachute, only works if it's open. And my mind was open
I like
enough
that.
to do it.
That's good.
Yeah, man, my mind was open enough at the time when God handed me something and said, "Hey, I'm putting this person in your life for a reason. Like it might not be the vehicle that you thought it was going to be because it was direct sales."
Yeah.
And I'm like, direct sales, like I've never sold. I don't even know how to do that world. And so it was really foreign to me, but I just decided to lean in, man. And there's a lot of people that need that same type of mentality from you for you to help them get to where they need to go. So
Yeah,
I'm
lean in.
excited.
I like that, Brandon. That's exactly what it is. It's getting people you gotta shake the tree a little bit, loosen them up, say, hey man, you're here. And not only you're here, you need to be better for everybody else in your life. Not just you, but you need to get good first or you're gonna be good for nobody. And it's you gotta lean into that, right? And you gotta be open to it. You gotta be honest about where you're at. That's the hardest part for people at first is to go, where you don't know where to go if you don't know where you're at. So it's getting people to be like, you know what? I do need help. Once they're there, okay, we can work.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Most people the results that they currently have are just, it's a direct reflection of the decisions that they've made up to that point, right? So in order for them to become, like the saying goes, if you want to break through, you need to break the current version of you to get to the next level of you.
Yeah.
Definition of sanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So they gotta do something new, find a new coach, find somebody that has the results that they want in that area of their life and start doing what they're telling them to do. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about fitness because you're a beast in that realm as well. So what do you coach people? Who's your ideal client, like that you would like to talk to? Like who are the ideal people that you're already serving?
So most of the clients that come to me are, I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't like spending hours in the gym. Hour max. I'm in and out. And I'm not going to do content on, it interests me zero, that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm about I'm about what it is. It's a discipline that you do, like brushing your teeth. Fitness is a basic discipline. You cannot have sound mind without sound body. It's impossible. You will not see somebody obese who's sound of mind. It's impossible. So you don't need to be crazy good. You can't be some getting on stage type level. Those aren't the people that come to me because first of all, that's not me, right? So most of the people that come to me have been avid athletes, but have fallen off, or are relatively new and want to get going, or are trying to go into selection pipelines. Those are generally my three. And I can work with guys. A lot of them are prior service who are feeling a little lost, need to get reset. I call it hitting the hard reset. I go, we strip it down to the studs. I take a look at their whole day. I tell them exactly where they're like. I go, well, first of all, you got to start getting up early. Get up before your wife. You should be the first one up. Get up, set the tone, ground yourself, no phone. Get yourself some time to think. That is the first thing that I'm shocked that people don't do. And I didn't do it. And guess what? I wasn't sound of mind. So once I started doing that, then we start there. Then we get to the food. Then we get to the basic body work, body weight disciplines. Then we get the body tight. Now we have the disciplines. Now we can get in the weights. Now we can actually do some work. No point in doing the advanced stuff when you can't even get the food right. And so that's kind of how I break it down for people.
No, that's perfect, man. It's like I go to a fighting gym, for example, like Muay Thai gym, and I see some of these trainers teaching these brand new people all these crazy advanced punches. And I'm like, why don't you start with the footwork? Everything starts from the footwork.
There you go. How are your feet?
Yeah. Like teach this person first how to actually, when they're throwing a punch, what's their footwork like? So I agree, man. And so, it's funny you say that because we're in line, dude. Like I got out of the SEAL teams in 2018 and was making great money. And so it's very easy to rest on your laurels and think that, that same type of fitness is just going to naturally come to you. And it hit me pretty hard when I realized that I was focused more on making money than I was on fitness.
Yeah, it started to slip. Right?
Started to slip. And then my mindset started to slip, like you're
100.
saying. And then what happens is then it's easy to grab a drink of alcohol to go to bed at night, and then you're drinking caffeine all throughout the day to stay awake, and it's this perpetual cycle. And eventually you got to break the cycle. And so what I started doing was I started training the mind, meaning doing things that I didn't want to do. In the SEAL teams, going through buds, right? Like I think you get a little bit of PTSD with cold.
Terrible.
And
I still have problems with it.
Yeah, and so it's natural to just stiff arm it and say, hey, I want to stay away. So what do I? So I do cold baths now. Like I do ice baths.
You're a better man than I.
No, but it's because I don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll get in, knock it out, and then from there I'm training my mind. When I go to the gym, I'm like, let me do some things. Like I went and did a marathon not too long ago because I'm not really a fan of running, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna do this because I don't want to do it. I'm gonna lean into it, and then now I'm in the gym, hitting the gym hard, and I'll do things like our boy Ben does on the Airdyne bike, the power bike. 45 minutes on that thing because I don't like it. So my point is I train the mind now through personal development, through doing things that I don't like. Like I focused on that because then for me, my fitness follows now because I'm focused on my mind.
And the rest is easier.
100%.
Right? That clarity's there. That no growth happens in comfort. 100%.
Yeah. So let's talk real quick. Maybe give everybody just a couple pointers on what they can do on their fitness. I mean, obviously, they need to come to you and get coaching, and they should. And I'm sure some of them will. But what are some, let's just say maybe top 3 to 5 things that they can do right now if they're, in a rut?
Yeah.
To where they can get out of that rut and start building, because life is about momentum. Once you're momentum,
yes,
it's hard to build momentum, but once you're in momentum, it's easy to sustain it.
That is spot on. That momentum takes some outside energy a lot of times. That's why coaching helps, or some new information, and they can be both. That new information and a little outside. You need to push that around. It needs a little bit of that outside energy. A couple pointers: track your macros. That would be the first, I would say, if somebody's having issues. And that's where the information, because a lot of people are just like, well, what do I track? Because you're just guessing. That's why coaching helps. But if you don't want to track, portion control, whatever you normally would eat, start eating half of that. Keep yourself train yourself. When you feel hungry, you go, this is what fat loss feels like. Because we immediately want to reach for that dopamine hit in the fridge. That's why tracking helps, because you realize how many times we go to the fridge and it's just for a dopamine hit. It's not because we're going to die. And I do it too. It's a constant battle. Everybody kind of wants, I'll just take a little nibble of that before I go to bed. Everybody does it. And it takes discipline. And so it's training your brain to go, you know what? A little hungry is okay. That's actually, now we're burning fat. It's good.
Can they replace it? If they get a dopamine hit, can they just replace it with drinking water?
I suggest, so what I like to do, a little hack, is I put a 0-calorie flavoring in water, and I'll drink a little glass of that before I go to bed.
Yeah, and another hack that I had, man, and I know because I talked to Ben and he told me you told him this. I used to cramp up like crazy, bro, like crazy. Anytime I do abs, I'd cramp up. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, I saw this Jason Proston guy online talking about how he took like 1,000 milligrams or 1,500 milligrams of Himalayan sea salt.
Dude, the salt is huge.
Dude, it changed the game for me. Can that?
It's a game. Your body, you physiologically, your brain, you start thinking better.
So do you recommend people do that? Like as far as not just do
I would
work?
say I would say if people are have high blood pressure or something, I generally don't. I'm always hesitant to tell them to take more salt because I want to take a look at kind of what's going on with them first. But for majority of people, we're salt deficient, and that's where a lot of the cravings come from. We're magnesium deficient. Our electrolytes are out of balance. You should be taking a multivitamin if you're not, and a little salt with your water.
And I'll tell you, most people who are our age, I'm not. How old are you?
38.
38. Yeah, I'm 38. So most people who are our age, or maybe a little bit younger, a little bit older, who are just going straight to testosterone. I think a lot of these guys, they need to do a lifestyle change first, and then
100%.
decide if it's right for them. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed first.
yeah, like drinking alcohol.
Once you cut that, first of all, you're going to be cutting out a lot of empty calories. Also, a lot of problems, and also messing up your schedule. If there's no worse thing to mess up a schedule than alcohol. Anytime I'm thrown off of a schedule, it's for looking back at my life, it's always been because of alcohol. Every time.
Do you still drink?
I stay away. I don't like going that hard fast because but I don't go out and party. I don't go out and do that whole thing. That is cut out completely. But if my mom has a glass of wine, I'll have a glass of wine with my mom, or a girlfriend has a glass. Okay, that's kind of where I keep it. I keep it in like a private setting and never lose my wits, and I'm never drunk.
In
Ever.
moderation. In moderation.
Yeah, it's. I started focusing on the greater, and the lesser started falling away. And maybe I'll get to that point where it's completely cut out. But it's something I don't think about. It's not something I partake in. Definitely not every day. Definitely not weekly. It's very spread out. And so it just doesn't fit into my life. It's fitting in my life less and less is what I'm finding.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I cut it out. It's honestly, I feel superhuman right now. Like
Yeah,
compared to
I
what I
believe
did,
it.
feel like when I was drinking. I mean, I was only drinking like once, like on the weekends, right? But when you
Yeah,
drink, guys like us typically, when we do something, we do it, right? Like, and
yeah.
so I stopped. I haven't drank, dude. I haven't drank, and I feel freaking amazing.
It's there's more detriment to come from it than positive.
Yeah, yeah.
It's and what worked for us in a previous life might kill us in the next. In the teams growing up, there's a lot of bonding that happens. There's times where I could see where it could have been maybe even beneficial, but there was a loop also of devastation that also happened. So yeah, and I have mixed feelings about
That's very true, man. Last question on this, and then we'll finish up here. What's your opinion on caffeine? How much per day? Should they limit it?
I I'm a caffeine guy. I can't lie. So I can't. I'm a coffee guy. That's what I prefer. I prefer black coffee. I put a little cinnamon in it if I'm feeling froggy. But that's about. I like a high quality coffee, and I find it gets me where I need to go in the morning, and I enjoy it. It's a very simple pleasure. I think if you're relying on it, I think if it's something that you're needing, something's wrong. If you can't get going, like I don't have energy dips in the middle of the day, and I think it's because my diet's very clean. I like it in the morning. I might drink a coffee at some point, but it's not really because I need energy. It's just because I kind of like the process of it and it's comforting.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. So let's talk about where do they find you? Do you have a website? I know you have your social media.
Mhm.
Talk to us about how they can find you.
So Instagram right now, TCAV official. My YouTube, TCAV TV, and my website's coming out December 1st. That'll be tcavofficial.com.
And if they want coaching, do they just DM you on Instagram?
They could DM me or email me. I have all those contact points available, but DM is going to be the best, or they can get my email on at tcavofficial@gmail.com.
All right, man. Well, any final words for everybody?
Remember, it's not about you. It's not about you. Once we stop thinking about ourselves and how we can actually help the people in our lives first and everyone else around us, our communities, and we start focusing outward, everything clears up.
Yeah, I love it, man. What you give, you get back in return. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Taylor, thanks for being on, brother. You guys know, subscribe, share this so that other people can see it. Okay. Download it. All of it, guys. Like if you take care of the Journey to Win's going to take care of you, and it's going to take care of all your friends and family, the people that you share this with. So get it out there, and let's get this message out there. Taylor has a powerful message that everybody needs to hear. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode. All right, Taylor, we'll see you, brother. Cheers.
Later, y'all.